And now to America's election headquarters. Democratic candidates campaigning out west today. Hillary Clinton is in California for several events, including some fundraising, while Bernie Sanders holds rallies in Washington state. And this as a new Fox News poll shows Clinton back in the lead nationally. Now that is a change from just last month when Sanders had a 3-point edge on her. Meanwhile, the Republican candidates gearing up for the next two contests in Wisconsin and New York. The New York Times today highlighting Ted Cruz's recent campaigning in those states as he tries to keep Donald Trump from racking up more delegates. So let's bring in radio host and Fox News contributor Leslie Marshall and syndicated radio host for Compass Media Network, Lars Larson. Welcome, ladies. Thanks for being with us. Ladies and gentlemen, I should say.
That's all right.
All right, so it is getting pretty ugly between Ted Cruz and Donald Trump. I'm not even going to get into the battle about their wives. I think that is beneath all of us. But what is news today is Ted Cruz saying that Donald Trump might be vulnerable in places like New York and Wisconsin. Here he was yesterday talking about New York being a battleground state. Listen to this.
New York is going to be a battleground. It's been a long, long time since the state of New York had a voice nationally in selecting the Republican nominee. We are competing hard in the state of New York. The people of New York know Donald Trump. New York will be decided congressional district by congressional district on the ground all across the state. We are building a grassroots army.
So the New York primary is coming up. It's April 19th. There are 95 delegates at stake there. That's an important state. Lars, you look at the recent polling in Real Clear Politics. I mean, Donald Trump up more than 40 points against Ted Cruz. Is Cruz seeing something that all of us are not?
Of course he is. He's trying to win, and he has to ignore the numbers and just keep on fighting. I understand he wants to win. We all know that mathematically it's extremely unlikely for him to win the number of contests in the next couple of months that it's going to take to get him anywhere near to the 1237. And he knows that statistically Trump is likely to get either near or to the 1237. That's at least mathematically possible for Trump. But Cruz has to just keep pushing the way that he's pushing, because what else can he do? Admit that he's effectively lost? And you've still got John Kasich coming up the works as well, who ought to have dropped out a long time ago.
Interesting. Well, Leslie, Wisconsin's another one that Ted Cruz is talking about. You look at the polling there, the Real Clear Politics. Trump's up only by a few, though, 32% to about 27%. So that primary is April 5th, 42 delegates at stake in Wisconsin. Is he hoping that maybe he can get an endorsement by Governor Walker?
He's not only hoping for an endorsement of Governor Walker, but if we look at Governor Walker, he comes from the same roots in a sense as Ted Cruz, at least the Tea Party roots that I'm talking about. And I think the polls are more accurate here than we have seen in the past. But then again, after what happened with the Democrats in Michigan, you just can't bank on those polls. But that percentage is close enough for Cruz to actually take Wisconsin. But I agree with Lars, he doesn't have the numbers, and he's not going to get New York. So even if he wins Wisconsin, it's just another check mark in a state, more numbers in the delegate column, but it doesn't get him the nomination, and it doesn't get him to trump the Donald.
It's interesting, Lars.
By the way, Abby.
Yeah, go ahead.
I'm sorry. I was just going to say, I hope Cruz realizes that he's being used as the pawn. The Republican establishment only likes Cruz a little bit better than they like Donald Trump. They don't like either one. So they're using Trump or Cruz to play the spoiler against Trump in the hopes that the big money Republican, the power brokers within the Republican Party, can show up at the convention and knock both of them off the stage and replace them with somebody like Jeb or Mitt or Paul Ryan, for goodness sake. Cruz is just being used.
Well, it's interesting because he might be the last man standing as the alternative to Donald Trump. You think about how we were talking about this race a year ago. Many people did not think Ted Cruz would get as far as he's gotten. You look at Lindsey Graham, for example, just a few weeks ago, and I'm going to quote this because this is not my words. He said, if you killed Ted Cruz on the floor of the Senate and the trial was in the Senate, nobody would convict you. Now Lindsey Graham has come out and endorsed Ted Cruz. So, you know, maybe Ted Cruz is the one with the last laugh at the end of this thing.
I'll never be able to explain Senator Grahamnesty on any of his positions on the issues, but I want you to notice something. When Jeb and Mitt come out and endorse Ted Cruz, they say they're endorsing him in the primaries and caucuses. They do not say they're going to stand up for him at the convention, because I don't think that's their plan. They're saying, Ted, go in there and mess it up for the Donald, and then when we get to the convention, we will decide who's going to be the nominee. I think that's the game plan, and that's the thing that's angered so many conservatives in this country when they look at what the party party is trying to do.
Leslie, who do you think Hillary Clinton is more concerned secretly? She won't say this publicly. Who do you think she's more concerned about going up against, a Donald Trump or a Ted Cruz?
Ted Cruz, without question. Not just because that's what the numbers show, but also because the Republican Party has and still does a very strong evangelical base. Ted Cruz, and like a lot of politicians, says what they want to hear. And I think that Ted Cruz actually believes a lot of what the Donald says that may not believe himself. And that is who I think that the party would rally behind. If you look at the numbers of various polls, there are Republicans that say if Trump is the nominee, they'll vote for Hillary. There are Republicans that say if Trump is the nominee, they'll stay home. And we don't see that exact sentiment with Cruz. For people that view him as an anti-establishment, non-GOPer, that's appealing, as it is with many of the Trump supporters. But he's also an inside the Beltway person, depending where you're standing and how you look at it. He is a part of the establishment.
Yeah.
He has been a part of the GOP, and even though he's fought them, that may appease some of the more GOP old school faction.
It may be a very long road ahead. Leslie, Lars, thanks for being with us today. We appreciate your insight.
Thanks, Abby.
Thank you.